Hey, good afternoon, everybody. If there was ever a day to jump the gun and go early, it is on this very day, this Thursday, when we have so much incredible news breaking left and right, absolutely destroying the candidacy of former Vice President Joe Biden. It just keeps coming. I'm Wendy Bell. Welcome to Wendy Bell Radio. Thank you for joining me here. I'd like to first off thank my main sponsor, Advanced Integrative Medical 360. I'm going to be telling you more about them toward maybe middle of the broadcast today. But I want to thank them right away. If it weren't for my sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't have the opportunity to have this platform to talk to you. And have you seen what Twitter has done? It's not just that your First Amendment rights are under assault. Your First Amendment rights are done. Did you see today that Twitter has suspended the Trump campaign's account because the Trump campaign tweeted out the report from the New York Post unraveling this disaster of a story for Joe Biden and his desire to be president of the United States. And it all focuses on a MacBook Pro laptop and his son, Hunter. And what we're going to talk about today are the lies, the blinding ambition that led to ridiculous corruption. And we're going to talk about the implications for November 3rd. I'm excited to introduce to you and to bring onto the program Mike McCormick. Mike, hello. You and I have known each other for a while. You were a White House stenographer for about 12 years, and you worked with then Vice President Joe Biden. I want you to tell everybody why you're joining me today, because you have such a unique perspective on this man and what not only he's now accused of, but we're getting proof of. Go ahead.
Right. Well, yes, thanks, Wendy. I wrote a book, Joe Biden Authorized and the 2020 Crack Up of the Democratic Party, published it in March. And it's based on what I did when I was Joe Biden's stenographer from 2011 to 2017. Before I worked for Joe, I worked for Dick Cheney for several years. And after I worked for Joe, I worked for Mike Pence for about a year. So I worked for all three administrations, Bush, Obama, and Trump. And I have a perspective of basically a neutral observer. So based on that, I've written two books. The Biden book is the second book because as he was ramping up this candidacy, I said, look, I've seen things behind the scenes with him that has to be discussed in public. Things that I saw him do in Russia, things that I saw him do in China, and things that I saw him do in Ukraine. And what happened was I started writing the book about a year ago in the summer of 2019. And shortly after that, they started this impeachment process against President Trump. As I was reading what they were doing and talking about, I was like, wait a minute, I was in Ukraine with Vice President Biden. This isn't really how it happened. President Trump, I think, is right. And then I stumbled across some information in some White House website documents that said, wait a minute, there's a serious problem of corruption there.
All right. So I want to take people who are just tuning in back to what we've discovered through, I'd say, really terrific reporting by the New York Post. And they put out a story yesterday that is now exploded, Mike. And this is all about information from a laptop that we believe is Hunter Biden's, by all intents and purposes, was Hunter Biden's, which was dropped off at a Delaware tech repair store that he never came back to claim. And some of the things, I mean, not just some of the things on this laptop, Mike, this is bombshell terrible for Joe Biden and his campaign. Discuss what your views on the contents of that laptop, what they mean to you.
Well, yesterday they came out with reporting about this bombshell email that basically they call the smoking gun email that basically said there was a meeting between Hunter Biden and a representative of the Ukrainian natural gas company called Burisma Holdings. And this gentleman was thanking in an email to Hunter Biden his meeting that he's arranged for him with the vice president. And the vice president is on the record, and I stood next to him in Kyiv, Ukraine, and listened to him lie to a member of the press when he was asked, have you ever had anything to do with your son's business in this Ukraine natural gas company? And the vice president said, I never talked to my son about his business. Well, that was a lie, because he's done that a lot. And that's what I put in my book, how he put his son into the business, into the board of Burisma, gave him a lot of money at a time when his son was really drastically struggling with addictions, alcohol, drug. And that's what's coming out in this laptop. There's some very sordid material there that shows that Hunter Biden for a long time was living a life of, it was a double life. He was on one hand this great person who was an esteemed light of the community. That's how his father talked about him. But it was all a cover up, because behind the scenes, there was involvement with prostitutes, there was drug use, there was alcohol use. And his wife brought all those things out at their divorce proceeding in 2017. So it was all been confirmed through other sources. This laptop has the visual proof. And it's a problem for the vice president, because for years he's been lying. I never did anything with my son. He absolutely did. And in my book, I have proof of what he did, and not only what he did, but when he did it. So we could walk through the when.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I was with Joe Biden in 2014. This is when this story starts. The malfeasance in office is what I call it. Joe Biden put his son on the board of Burisma Holdings. He did it in March 2014 on a trip he took to Poland. There was an old family friend who was already on the board of Burisma Holdings, a guy named Alexander Kwasniewski, who's the former president of Poland. Biden and Alexander Kwasniewski had worked on the NATO enlargement, bringing Poland in the 2000s. Old family friend. He goes to Poland. He has his contact over. There's an invasion in Ukraine. We've got to help Ukraine. We got to help their natural gas industry. A grand jury investigation will generate records of their contact. Right now, there's no official record of their contact, but it's my suspicion, my intuition, based on what I saw and heard when I was there on the ground in Poland, knowing the Vice President Biden as I know. He would call everybody involved in a project he was doing. And I guarantee he called that guy. And that's probably when he said, hey, let's put Hunter on the board.
So wait a minute. I want to stop you there, Mike.
Yes.
So, and if you're just joining us, Mike McCormick is a former White House stenographer and worked under multiple administrations and spent many years working with Joe Biden, basically transcribing his interactions with the media. So you're telling me, Mike, that not only does Joe Biden, his claim that he's never talked to Hunter about his business dealings with Ukraine, not only is that ridiculous, but that the vice president was the one who got his son on that board of Burisma?
I believe a grand jury investigation will reveal that truth. And I believe a grand jury investigation will reveal the lie that Joe Biden has been telling, that he didn't have anything to do with his son. And we're starting to see that in some of these emails that come out of this found laptop.
And I think the one that's most damning, in fact, is the email correspondence between the gentleman you were referring to, who happens to be the third in line at Burisma, thanking Hunter Biden for connecting him and the vice president for that handshake on the tarmac, right?
I'm not sure what you mean about the handshake on the tarmac. There
was a handshake. There was a handshake, and he's thanking him. Hey, thanks for connecting some dots, Hunter. It's a delight to get to know the vice president.
Oh, really? Was that on one of the trips?
Yeah. That's apparently, yes. Apparently on a trip that Hunter made with the vice president to China. Yes. He was able to connect with this gentleman and make that, and the email on Hunter's laptop, which we presume is Hunter's laptop. It's not been proven, but all accounts look like it is, that Hunter arranged for his father to meet this third in command at Burisma, who is paying Hunter $50,000 a month, Mike.
I got to clarify one thing. I was on the trip with Vice President Biden when he went to China.
Okay.
That's a different side of the corruption. And that's not really in my book. That's a whole different level of corruption that's starting to come out.
Yeah.
But the Burisma stuff, there wasn't a lot of public knowledge about it. It was always sort of, Joe's going into Ukraine, he's fixing this thing. So basically what happened was, what really raised the red flags for me and the whole Burisma deal In the middle of April 2014, after Joe has gone into Poland, Hunter is a sketchy guy. He's been red flagged with getting a $3.5 million transfer of money from Moscow from a sketchy person there. He's been, he got kicked out of the Navy Reserve for a positive cocaine test. Everybody in the White House would know both those things. They had a meeting in the White House in the Roosevelt Room on April 15th, 2014. Barack Obama and senior administration officials, David Axelrod was one of them. They had a meeting without Joe Biden there. The very next morning, out of that meeting, David Axelrod has a one-on-one, last minute set up with Joe Biden personally in the Naval Observatory. To me, that says Barack Obama and his brain trust knew Joe Biden was cutting a side deal in Burisma. They wanted him to stop it. They sent Axelrod in to say, don't do it. Joe Biden ignored him. 4 hours after that meeting with Axelrod at Naval Observatory, Joe Biden had a meeting in his West Wing office with Devon Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner. These are all documented in White House visitor logs that I put in my book. This isn't material that's coming from Ukraine.
Right.
And so this is Obama's, this is their own administration's materials saying, yeah, this definitely happened. This is infallible proof that these meetings happen. A grand jury investigation will break out of the cone of silence that's over them and tell us what really happened in there.
Right. And what you say in the book, which I've read, is this need to find the truth. Mike, I'm going to push pause on this for 1 second. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, as I think about what we're unraveling today, I want to tell you quickly about my lead sponsor, Advanced Integrative Medical 360. You want truth about what's going on inside of your body, why you feel so sluggish, you can't lose the weight. My friend, Dr. Darren Dubiak at AIM 360 invites you to come out and take advantage of a phenomenal special, $99. You're going to get 55 different lab biomarkers, more than 10 hormones tested. He's going to go into you at the granular level and tell you why you're not feeling the way you are. And he's going to get you back on track. This guy knows what he's doing. I know it because I'm not just his friend, I'm his patient. So here's what I want you to do. 412-227-9255. Again, that's integrativemedical360.com. Mike, let's bring you back in here. There's so many things that we can go into moving into your book and the things that are coming out with this New York Post revelation from yesterday. So much of this is proving the chapters that you line up. This has got to be vindicating, but what also, I know you have a sinking feeling in your stomach that this is so corrupt, the American people can't even fathom it. Give us an example of how that is.
Joe Biden was prostituting his office to pay for his son's prostitutes. That's how disgusting this is. I don't think he knew his son was doing. I don't think he wanted to know. He used to say he had this firewall between his son's business and what he's doing.
Right.
But he knew his son was failing repeatedly at these rehabilitation clinics for alcohol and drug abuse. So there was a lot of covering up in the family. So there's a lot of sleazy behavior there. Plus, he was putting him in touch with people in China, like you referenced. There's that whole side of it. I don't have that much of China in my book. That's somebody else's reporting. But after he went to Ukraine, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine. He has these meetings with Obama, and he brings them a package of energy security assistance, taxpayer-funded energy security assistance. Within a month, and this is important for people in Pittsburgh, Chris Hines was the partner of Devon Archer and Hunter Biden. As soon as he found out about this partnership with their Burisma thing, he headed for the hills. He dropped all business connections with them. Chris Hines is a smart guy. He's got a big name, big family in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That has to be brought up because he knew this was sketchy and he wanted no part of it.
So are you suggesting then, Mike, that a grand jury investigation into this would bring a Chris Hines into the forefront and basically force him to say what he knew when he knew it?
Exactly. And David Axelrod and Barack Obama. And actually, further, who did Barack Obama and David Axelrod tell in the Democratic hierarchy? Did it go to Nancy Pelosi? Does Chuck Schumer know? Because as they set up the impeachment of Donald Trump, potentially every Democratic legislator that voted for the impeachment of Donald Trump would have to testify in front of a grand jury. This goes to the heart of the illegitimacy of the Donald Trump impeachment.
And that is absolutely infuriating. I don't care how you vote, Mike. This is corruption at its most obscene. I want you to walk me through red flags that you had working so intimately, literally word for word, transcribing the words of the vice president as he interacted with the media for 5 years. There was something beyond just a couple things, something really tipped you off, red flags that made you say, this, I'm not liking this.
Well, what happened was he had a very lenient treatment by the media. You know, I saw him, I went to Moscow with him. It's in my book. In 2011, he was bragging about their reset with Russia. Well, when he got face to face with Vladimir Putin in the same room, I was standing there 5 feet away from the two of them. He got body slammed. Vladimir Putin publicly humiliated him. And 5 months later, also in 2011, he went to China, and the Chinese leadership, Xi Jinping and Wen Jiabao, they did the same thing to him. They basically manhandled his staffers, roughed up staff right in the middle of Joe Biden speaking. So they wouldn't let him finish his speeches. This is like a treatment that's beyond anything I've seen. Dick Cheney never got treated like that. Mike Pence never got treated like that. Joe Biden got treated like that. He rolled over and did their bidding. He did their bidding in China, and they let him get away with it in Russia. And then Russia went and invaded Ukraine and turned this whole thing into a big mess for the Obama administration.
So from your research, and you have documents in your book that prove every allegation that you lay out, in your dealings with the Obama-Biden White House, you believe that the administration and then President Barack Obama were completely plugged into these side deals and they had to start something to deflect from it, or what?
I think Barack Obama realized, I think it was Axelrod and those guys. You know, White Houses get a ton of intel from all different sources. I think at this point in the middle of April, they realized Hunter Biden was a problem. Joe Biden was a problem, and they wanted to head that problem off in the pass. They tried, it failed. They started a cover up. They've been covering it up since. It's a conspiracy to cover up, and it's how deep does it go in the Democratic Party? We don't know. A grand jury investigation will determine that. And that grand jury should be seated as soon as possible, because if they have an election and they elect these guys, then they'll just squash any further investigation over what they really did and what they really knew.
You know, you wrote something to me this morning, and I want to share it with our viewers and our listeners. And you just alluded to this, but I want to drill down a little bit more. You say the Democrats impeached President Trump over a Joe Biden lie that he knew nothing about his son's business, and impaneling a grand jury is the only way to get to the truth. So walk me through the unraveling of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden trying to do whatever he can to deflect from that for his own skin, and how that becomes Donald Trump being accused and being impeached.
Right. So Joe Biden in 2014, people don't really remember this, but in early 2014, he had a passion, a thirst to be president. He was going to run in 2016. It wasn't Hillary Clinton in his mind. And so behind the scenes, he was doing all kinds of things. That's part of what this whole Ukraine project of his was. When his son comes out and does these really sketchy things, he realizes he's got to fix this problem. So he puts him on the board of Burisma. He's trying to give him money. Basically, here you go, son. Take some money and behave yourself, basically. And so when those guys, when Obama and Axelrod find out, they also knew at that time of that April meeting that Joe Biden could have been on his way to Cyprus. Cyprus is the site of where Burisma Holdings founder Mykola Zlochevsky was holed up. That's the money laundering capital of the world. All of a sudden, Joe Biden looks like he's going to have this meeting with this guy. There was no press on that trip. I didn't go on that trip. And Hunter Biden could have been on the plane there. This is what the grand jury has to look into. What did Joe Biden do in Cyprus? What was said in the meeting between Barack Obama and his brain trust? And what was said in the meeting between David Axelrod and Joe Biden? And we know that Hunter Biden is a sketchy guy. We're going to see that over the next 2 weeks. Why didn't we hear about that beforehand? Who else knew how bad this was? Chris Hines knew. Let's hear about it. We want to hear the truth, because President Trump smelled a rat, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
knew that there was something wrong in Ukraine, and he wanted this investigated, and they impeached him over that. It could have been a cover up for what Joe Biden did. We don't know. We need to get to a grand jury investigation to find out.
I think it's very interesting, Mike. And again, if you're just joining us, Mike McCormick is a former White House stenographer who worked very intimately with Joe Biden when dealing with the press on overseas trips. You've been to how many different places with the vice president?
Oh, I don't know, 50 countries. A lot. He goes a lot of places.
You heard a lot. You've written a lot. Among the documents, the photographs on this laptop that was dropped off ostensibly by Hunter Biden in this bombshell article by the New York Post yesterday, other documents show that $3.5 million payment given to Hunter's businesses from the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. Don't you wonder what that's for? That he opened a bank account with a Chinese national for a $100,000 global spending spree, along with James and Sarah Biden, that he paid a woman allegedly linked to Eastern European prostitution or even human trafficking. I don't think this could look any worse for the Biden family and for the man who has dreamed of being president since he was a senator.
You know, it's amazing that they come out and say, Hunter Biden's, what I've read of his defense right now is, I didn't do anything illegal. Well, Joe Biden did. Joe Biden committed malfeasance in office in 2014. And then he covered it up. And alongside him covering it up was Barack Obama and David Axelrod. And we don't know how deep it goes in the Democratic Party. But there has to be a grand jury investigation to uncover it. And they got to do it soon, because if the election goes and Joe Biden, people don't get the truth out, why would they vote for Joe Biden? I don't know. I wouldn't vote for a guy who's halfway to being a liar and a criminal. I wouldn't.
Halfway. I think he's already jumped off that cliff, Mike. Before I want to ask you about looking towards the future, and is there any justice for people in, of the Biden family ilk, of the Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton ilk? Is there any justice? Before we do that, folks, I do want to tell you about Richard Rafferty, Dr. Richard Rafferty from the Disc Institute of Pittsburgh. Oh my gosh, I was there with him yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, he showed me some amazing things that he does at his office here in Wexford, PA. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a bulging, herniated, or degenerative disc, he can go in and he can solve your problem without you needing surgery. He can give you your life back. No pain, 98% success rate. It's called intradisc neutrosis. It's a big word, but it's something that can solve you so much pain. So please give them a call. Again, the Disc Institute of Pittsburgh. Call them today, 412-906-9600, PittsburghDiscInstitute.com. These guys know what they're doing. Mike, is there justice? Is there a way? And now wait, we heard this today. This was just breaking a minute ago. Senate Republicans calling on Twitter, Facebook bosses to testify amid censorship claims and say there's a subpoena in the works. So not only do we have this big story busting out about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden obviously lying for years about this, not only do we have that, we have the president's campaign tweeting out a link to the story and having their Twitter account frozen. Basically, you're done, because obviously Facebook and Twitter are in it for Joe Biden. That's a scary thing in 2020 United States of America.
Yeah, it makes you question the validity of Twitter and Facebook. And, if they're going to have freedom of speech, they got to be free. Freedom of speech has to be free for everybody. So I spend some time on Facebook, not much time on Twitter. And, President Trump does an excellent job. That's how he got in there, by pushing through the media. There's like a wall. This is what I saw in the White House for 15 years was there's a certain way the media looks at what people do. They let trickle out the information they like, but there's a lot of stuff that's said and done there that's never talked about, that never goes beyond where they see it. That's why I wrote the book. It fills in that gap for people. Fills in that gap about Joe Biden. He's not qualified to be a president.
I was just going to say, you know, our view of how Joe Biden and his ad campaign, and he's just this blue collar guy from Scranton, and he's Lunchbox Joe, and what a great family guy. Do you think he was doing all of this with Burisma to save his son?
I think he was doing all this to save his presidential candidacy. I think he's such an ambitious guy that he wanted that was his primary goal. I mean, Joe Biden has wanted to be president for years, and now he's almost at the edge of it. And it is a disaster for the Democratic Party that he's this close, and this thing blows up with this sleazy behavior of his son is, you know, documented on this laptop. So, I mean, it's, you know, we'll see what happens. That's why I wrote the 2020 crack up in my book. And by the way, my book is available on my website, www.joebidenunauthorized.com. And if you buy it off the website, I donate 10% of the proceedings to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, because I used to be a stenographer in the court system, and our Blue Lives Matters families are the unsung heroes of our society.
Amen. Amen. So give them the title of the book one more time.
The title of the book is Joe Biden Unauthorized in the 2020 Crack Up of the Democratic Party. It's available on Amazon or my website, joebidenunauthorized.com.
Joe Biden Unauthorized. Mike McCormick, thank you.
Wendy, thank you. Thanks for being a patriot.
I think, oh, you like my shirt, huh? Pittsburgh
I sure
Patriot.
do.
Right? Somebody made that for me. How cool is that? That's a picture.
Right.
Oh my God, so cool. Michael, thank you. We're going to have you back on, okay?
That's great. I'll check in.
Take care.
Bye, Wendy.
Ladies and gentlemen, look, it's one thing if you're going to look at information. It's another thing if you're going to hear it from somebody who was there. He was a stenographer for 12 years, 5 of them for the former vice president. He knows. It's all in that book. And now you're right to find information, to get to the truth, to speak openly and honestly is not just being threatened, it's being squashed. And that is scary. This is what Donald Trump talks about, draining the swamp. This is why America voted for him, because he's not a politician. He's a businessman who loves America. It reminds me of my friend Eric Nelson. Look, if you're in Pennsylvania and you're in the 57th district, Westmoreland County, Greensburg, most beautiful place in the world, you've got to vote Eric Nelson back in. Represents the 57th legislative district. He is a patriot. He is a veteran. He was a Marine. Moved by 9/11, got back in, served his country, father of 6, common sense conservative leadership. That's what we need. Eric Nelson, don't forget that name. Look, I could go on and on about how this is so tragic for the Biden campaign. But what you will hear on mainstream media are crickets. That's all you need to know about the reality of what's going on here. You need to know that you are not getting the truth from ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. You're not getting it. So what do we have tonight? We have these dueling town halls. Really? So we're going to have what? Joe Biden on, what is he on? NBC with Savannah Guthrie? Is that him? Or I might have him confused. We're going to have dueling town halls with Joe Biden, who I guarantee is not going to be asked a question about this. Or if he is asked a question about this laptop discovery and these bombshell documents, photographs, emails proving that not only was he aware of his son's business dealings in Ukraine, he was probably the mastermind behind it. If he doesn't get asked those questions, ladies and gentlemen, the jig is up. So for the 15 people who are going to be watching him and the millions who'll be watching Donald Trump talk about what he wants to do for his next 4 years after what he's done in his first 4, what are you going to do? It's all about your future. I don't want a liar in office. Donald Trump has had everything thrown at him, and the media and the left have got to be losing their minds because nothing is stuck. Everything they throw, ladies and gentlemen, is a self-reflection. You know, before I leave you guys, I do want to say the future. Are you worried about the future? I'm worried about the future I'm leaving to my children. And if you're worried about it as well, and you need to get your ducks in a row, I want you to call my friend John D'Onofrio. John is a lawyer, and he manages estates and trusts. He takes what you've worked your lifetime for, and he helps you in an easy way to organize how it's going to go, where it's going to go after you pass away. First consultation, give him a call. It's totally free to sit down and chat with him. He's a wonderful man, John D'Onofrio. Give him a call, 412-928-2068, 412-928-2068. Look, this is huge. I hope you buy Mike McCormick's book. I've read it. It's got page after page after page that's now coming true. We know. All right? Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys listening. Thanks, Murphy. He says hello and love my shirt. Here, I'll tilt down. Look at that. Is that the coolest? Somebody made this shirt, and the proceeds go to the widow of a man who I love dearly, a combat Marine in Vietnam named Bull Baylor. So cool. All right, I'll see you next time, guys. Hey, wait, Monday, we're going to go live at the Wagon Wheel Restaurant in Delmont. I think it's Delmont, but it's got kind of a Greensburg address. Route 22 here in Pittsburgh, Wagon Wheel. We'll be there starting at 11:30. And we're going to start, I think on Tuesday, we're going to start do the show at 11 a.m. because that's what you guys had asked for, okay? So thank you very much for tuning in. Love you, and we'll talk to you soon.